Hello everybody, Cybix here. Today is going to be a bit of an interesting video. Today we're going to be talking about Conquest and the different teams you may need for all your feats and stuff. So I've got some squads configured here, and I've got the list of feats right here. So we're going to start with the globals. Defeat 250 enemies on the Golden Challenge path, gain Foresight 200 times, win 20 battles with the Saw's Ventress, Dark Disciple in your squad, that's the Bounty Hunter one. Attempt to inflict tenacity down 70 times, win 20 battles with the full squad of pirates, and attempt to inflict purge 300 times. So, for those feats, I've got some. Now, this isn't the end all be all to do these feats, obviously. So these are just what I'm going to be doing for these conquest feats, and you can use them at your discretion, use them to form teams that you may have. This is just meant to be a little guide that you can use to help you get your conquest feats done, you know? Alright, so for the Foresight, I'm going to be using this Jedi team. I'm going to be using Jedi Master Luke lead, and a bunch of other characters to get Foresight. Bounty Hunt, Asajj Ventress, just the Boba Fett signed Django Bounty Hunter team. Tenacity down, CLS team's great for that. I do have Pirate King Hondo unlocked, and I'm going to be using him for my pirate feats. But if you do not have Pirate King Hondo or Maz Kanata, and you just have like a Athano, you have Quiggold, Kix, and like let's say just regular Hondo and like Enth's Nest. This team will work great as well for you if these are like the only pirates you have. Now, if you don't have a full squad of pirates, obviously skip this feat. I mean, it's not the best thing ever if you skip feats, but as long as you're hitting the 630 to hit gold to hit red box, or the 530 to hit gold box, whatever your goal may be in Conquest, as long as you're hitting that goal, everything will be smooth sailing. So if you have like this hodgepodge team, I mean it's not hodgepodge, but if you have this team, you should be good to use them in like Sector 1 or Sector 2 depending on your relic levels. Because Relic Delta is active in this conquest, so that's gonna change how some teams operate. So then Purge, just any Inquisitors you may have. If you don't have Inquisitors, SOL I guess. But yeah, so I'm gonna be using this. There, Inquisitor Barris being on this team is just for some future feats that require her. Alright, so now let's move on to Sector 1 feats. So Sector 1, win 10 battles with Captain Silva and Vane surviving, win 10 battles with Coruscant under police surviving, attempt to inflict buff disruption 30 times, and take 50 bonus turns. Now, we'll get to the mini-boss and the boss in just a second. But first, we've got win with Vane and Silva surviving. Honestly, you could do any team. Like, you could do a... I'm going to be using Pirate King Hondo, but what I would recommend doing, if you don't have Pirate King Hondo, any team that has, like, a tank, like, you could do JML with Wat Tambor. Let's see here. Wat Tambor. And maybe some other character in here as well that would be able to tank damage. If your Vane is low, you definitely want some tanks in here to make sure that these two survive, because you do need them to survive in the battle to get the feat done. But you only have to do that 10 times, so not the end of the world. For the cup surviving, same thing. You could do like, I'm going to be using my Jedi Master Kenobi. I would recommend using him with Jedi Master Kenobi if you do have him, but if you don't, you can just do like a similar team like you did with the Vane and Silvo teams. Next up, buff disruption. There's only one character in the game that inflicts buff disruption, and that is Stormtrooper Luke on his basic ability, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so the only way you're going to be able to inflict buff disruption is with Stormtrooper Luke on his basic. Now, if you only did the Era of Anniversary free-to-play, and let's say you only have him at base level like most people do at gear 3 stars gear 12. He's still usable as long as you have some sort of way to keep him alive, because as long as you have some mods on him and he has, relatively decent speed, let's say like 260, I forget what his base speed is, but if you have a decent level of speed on him, you should be able to give him turns. Like you could do Wat Tambor, give him the weapons tech, and just have him constantly take turns over the enemies. But as long as you have a way to keep your Stormtrooper Luke alive, then you should be able to get the buff disruption feats by using his basic. Bonus turns we see here. I like to use this team for bonus turns a lot because it does get a lot of... It can get like you He can get you between 30 to 40 out of the 50 in one battle. Han Solo uses his bonus turn at the start of battle. Wat Tambor uses his bonus turn at the start of battle. If Malik goes below a certain health threshold, he gets bonus turns. Maul gets bonus turns with his Anguish attacks, and Darth Vader takes bonus turns with his Merciless Massacre. So, as long as you can space out all of those in a way that you can get multiple in one battle, then it works out very well. Otherwise, there are other teams you could just do, like just Maul on a team. You could do just CLS with Han Solo to take the bonus turns. You could use Wat Tambor with the other feats. You know, there's many different ways to get this done. This is just my favorite team to do this feat. And that's that. Now, the mini boss and the boss, for the mini boss, you have to win with a full squad of Tuskens and with only light side characters. Full squad of Tuskens, only light side characters. Any light side team would work, obviously, because it's only light side characters. The Tusken one, if you don't have Tuskens, you're gonna have to skip this. And then the boss, a similar kind of thing. You need to win with only the Stranger and win with Zuckuss surviving. So, if you don't have the Stranger, it's kind of an SOL. But if you have the Stranger, like I do, you can get that feat done, depending on if it's even plausible to do it with him. Because sometimes it's like, do this, like when they did I forget which Conquest it was, but it was a boss node, and you have to win with CLS, only using CLS on the boss node, and it was kind of difficult if you didn't have the modding right, and you didn't use the abilities in the proper order. So hopefully it's not something like that, and it's easy peasy with the Stranger. And then with Zuckuss surviving, you could just do a tank team with Wat Tambor or any sort of team that you can carry if you don't have Zuckuss built up like I do. But I'm just going to be using him with Boba Fett, Sign of Django, and Ventress to also count towards this global feat here. So, that is Sector 1. Now let's move on to Sector 2. Alright, so Sector 2, you have to evade at least 100 attacks in battles you won, attempt to stun enemies 50 times, gain stealth 60 times, and win 10 battles with 4-LOM and Zuckuss surviving. So, what I have for evades, once again, Jedi team that I put in from above for the global feats. Stun, this is the team that I like to use for stuns because there's a lot of different ways to stun enemies with this team. If you have like Leia, or if you just have like Jedi Knight Luke and you want to use his lead with a bunch of Jedi, go for it. Do whatever you think is probably going to be the best way for you to get as many stuns as possible. This team is just really good for getting stuns because you can force turn meter with Wat Tambor's weapons tech. CLS has a stun on his basic, R2 has a stun on a basic, and Jedi Knight Luke has a stun on his what's the ability called? Repulse? I'm pretty sure it's called Repulse. Yeah, Repulse. So there's many different ways you can get stun. Like if you have let's say a Leia team, you can just do R2 doing the stuns from his basic that way. But if you want to do it the most efficient way, I think this team that I have benchmarked here is a good efficient way to get all the stuns as quickly as possible. Stealth, honestly, there's some gimmicky teams that you could do. This one right here with just the new Bad Batch, it's relatively easy, just because they start with stealth. There's different ways for them to gain stealth. Again, regular Bad Batch has ways to gain stealth too. A weird team that I found that you can use to get a lot of stealth in battles is in particular these two right here. So if you have Tebow lead with Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, you have a chance to gain stealth from Tebow's lead, and because you have a chance to gain stealth, and Slacker has a lot of damage, you can actually abuse it to gain a bunch of stealth in one battle. That's how I would do it with like the old Galactic Challenge feats that would require gaining stealth. That's another way that you could do it. You could do it with Tebow lead. If you have Tebow built up, even if you don't have him built up in any way, as long as his lead is leveled up, you should be able to get those stealths rocked. And then with 4-LOM and Zuckuss surviving, honestly, you could do any team with them just in the background. Like if you have a tank that can tank most of the damage, or if you get like an entrenched data disc and a voluntary vanguard, if they have that even in this set. I don't know if they have that in this data disc set. But those two with Malik makes it so then he's almost permanently taunting for the entire battle. Or if you just get entrenched with Wat Tambor, you can give him the tank tech and that would work as well. And And then on to the mini-boss. Mini-boss, we need to win with Stormtrooper Luke surviving and win with a full squad of Galactic Republic surviving. There's a lot of you need characters surviving feats for this conquest, I'm noticing. So Stormtrooper Luke surviving, this is just what I'm gonna do. Throw him in my GL Leia team. This is how I normally use him anyways, so that'll be nice and easy. And then mini boss, any Galactic Republic team. If you have Jedi Master Kenobi, do that. If you have a Padme lead team, do that. Gas, any sort of Galactic Republic team that you have that would work best to get that feat done. And now, for the boss, you need to win with Maul hate fueled in your squad and win without using any attackers in your squad. If you don't have Maul, then it's another situation like previously. You just have to skip it because you just don't have them. And then win without using any attackers in your squad. You could do like I've done a Leia Rebel team without like Drogon or any other attackers in there. This pirate team I have doesn't have any attackers in it because you have a tank, you have support, tank, support. There are many different ways you could do this. You could do like a JML team without any attackers with a bunch of supports, But this is just what I'm going to be doing. Sector 3, we've got to attempt to inflict buff immunity 40 times, win 10 battles with no tanks in your squad, gain profit 50 times with pirates. They specified with pirates, so you can't abuse that with, let's say, Nute Gunray. And then win 10 battles with Satele Shan surviving. Why do you have to do this to us, CG? Why do you have to put the new characters in the feats when some people may not have them? Kind of annoying. Anyways, so buff immunity, I'm going to be using a Queen Amidala team with Padawan Obi-Wan. And the important thing here is that he has his Omicron. I would highly recommend, if you don't have Padawan Obi-Wan's Conquest Omicron, you should get it because this Omicron is a lifesaver in many scenarios. And he has a chance to gain a bonus turn. He gives a bunch of stats, that's first and foremost. And he has a chance to gain bonus turns that inflict buff immunity. And just having a bonus turn that can have a chance to inflict buff immunity on the entire enemy team is very, very valuable. And his Conquest Omicron also gives it so that you can inflict almost every single debuff and gain almost every single buff in the game. So then these feats like gain accuracy up 50 times or inflict offense down 50 times. Padawan Obi-Wan's a very great way to get those feats done. So you don't need Queen Amidala to get him to work. You can just use him with any Galactic Republic lead or any Jedi lead. Just one of those two factions and just have his Omicron and you will be off to the races and get all those buff immunities and any other debuffs you need to inflict and buffs you need to gain done. No tanks. I like to use this Phoenix team here. It's just a standard Phoenix team without Kanan and throwing in Ezra instead. You can throw in Zeb in there if your Zeb is higher than Ezra. But Phoenix is a very good team to do this with, especially because Captain Rex is so OP. And then if you don't have Satele Shan, then, it is what it is. But if you do have Satele Shan, that is more or less just 10 free Conquest keycards that you can get, because she kind of just stomps everything. I do have her at Relic 10, because I'm a sucker for Old Republic content, but you don't have to have her at Relic 10, obviously, to get the feat done. Now, Profit, there are ways you can cheese this Profit. There are some videos on, like, Arnold's channel on how to cheese Profit. You just need a lead and then have, like, 2 pirates, and there's a way you can cheese through things. I don't remember exactly what he did, but it has some sort of gimmick to do with Brutus and Athano lead. And as long as you find the right node to use it on, you should be able to get all 50 profits in one battle if you don't have a full pirate team built up. So the mini boss, we need to win without using any supports in our squad and win with Yoda and Chewie surviving. So Yoda and Chewie surviving, I have a Wookiee team, kind of, not really. I need to kind of build them up a little bit more. But I do have a Wookiee team here, and so that's what I'm going to be using for that feat. But, you could, like I've said before, JML, Watambor, many different ways you can make that work. And then without using supports in your squad, just doing a Jedi Master Kenobi team with, most of the base team is attackers, and, it's mostly attackers, and then you have GK in there. So I just threw Gas in there, because, he's another attacker, so As long as you don't throw in someone like Cup or Padme, you should be fine, and using like Jedi Master Kenobi if you have it. Now the boss feats for this one are very interesting to me. Win with a Saz Ventress, Dark Disciple surviving, and win with a full squad of Geonosians. I don't remember the last time we had to use Geos for a feat. That was a while ago. Like a really long time ago. I may actually skip this Geo feat because all my Geos are only Relic 3. And with Relic Delta and this being in Sector 3, I don't know how well this is going to bode for me. So depending on how they perform, I may skip this feat myself. But if your Geos are in a good place, like they're Relic 5 or above, by all means, go and get those 4 Conquest keycards for that. But if you don't have Geos, just skip this, because I'm probably going to skip this myself. And then with Ventress surviving, obviously, I'm just going to use my Bounty Hunter team for that. Now, Sector 4, we have to defeat 50 enemies with droid units, win 10 battles with Inquisitor Bear surviving, defeat 40 enemies with Bounty Hunters, and gain potency up 50 times. So, what I'm going to be doing for this one is I have a sortie team. If we have Zealous Ambition again in this set of Conquest, this feat becomes almost completely nothing, because you can just kill all the enemies for almost... When I've done this feat and I've had sortie lead. Sortie is a support, so that's thing number 1. Sortie's a support, and because she's a support, she gains so much offense from Zealous Ambition, she does her AoE, and then everything just dies. And you can do that for 5 to 6 battles in a row before you start to lose steam and she doesn't have enough turn meter or enough speed to start off with to be able to get everything done properly. So as long as if you have sortie, please, if there's Zealous Ambition, please use sortie lead, because that is the best way to get these droid kills. If you have Separatist droids, that's also another good way to get this done. If you want to just cheese it with like R2 with Leia, you can do that as well. There are many different ways you can go with this. I'm just going to be using a sortie team because that's the best way I've found to get this feat done. And like I said above, Inquisitor Barris is in that team for this particular feat. That way I can get the 300 Purge Global done and also get the 10 battles with her surviving feat done. And then Bounty Hunter kills, I have Jabba, so I'm just going to be using that. But if you do have like Bosk Lead, and you don't have Jabba, there are many different Bounty Hunter teams you can form. Just do whichever one you think is the best one that will work for you. I think Bosk Lead is besides Jabba, Bosk is the best lead for Bounty Hunters. And then potency up, I'm going to be using an Imperial Trooper team. If your Piet is fast enough, you should be able to do this feat just fine. Mine's at 351. With Veer's lead, he will be 371. But if you don't have the speed for it, there's a giant slew of characters that do have potency up baked into their kit. Like Cara Dune's a good character for potency up because of her revives and stuff. But Scout Trooper gives potency up to all Imperial Trooper allies whenever she does a basic. This is gonna rely on if I get the first turn and if I can get Scout Trooper to use her basic over and over again. That's what's gonna determine how this goes for me. If it doesn't work out, I will probably end up using a different team. But if your Piet is faster than mine, that's awesome. Firstly. But if your Piet is fast enough to get that done, you should be able to do it with this team right here. So Sector 4, we need to win with a full squad of Jawas and win with IG-90 surviving. A lot of these new characters are in these feats, and I find that kind of interesting, how they're trying to incorporate all the new characters into Conquest here. So if you have Jawas, use Jawas. If you don't have Jawas, skip the feat. And IG-90 surviving, you could actually just do him in a Bounty Hunter team, because he is a Bounty Hunter. So you could double dip those feats, do a Bounty Hunter team with IG-90 in it on this mini boss node, along with getting some Bounty Hunter kills at the same time. And then the boss, we need to win without using any Empire in our squad and win with Darth Vader duels and surviving. I hate it when they do this with feats, where it's, oh, use this character. Oh, but don't use this faction, and it's the same faction of that character. It's so annoying. But I just threw a placeholder team with Slacker. You can use any team that, as long as it's not, just use any team that isn't an Empire. It doesn't have the Empire tag. Honestly, that's the anything will work. And then just this team is probably the best for Darth Vader's duels end. You could probably throw like Thrawn in here. For Sector 5 feats, I've thrown in one of the teams, so that's why I don't have him in here. But any Empire character would fit there for that team. Alright, so now Sector 5, we need to inflict at least 300 damage over time effects on enemies with an ability. Attempt to inflict Fracture 40 times. Attempt to inflict Ability Block 50 times, and gain Evasion up 60 times. Alright, so the best possible team, the best team for damage over times is Tusken's. Because Tusken Chieftain's leadership, there are so many different, whenever you have, I forget what it is, it's something about, when you have at least 10 stacks of momentum, and the enemy attacks you, you stun them, and you inflict a bunch of damage over times on them. That's their whole gimmick. And it's really fun to play with Tuskens, and you don't even have to win the battle. You don't have to win the battle. You just have to inflict 300 damage over times with them. Now, if you don't have Tuskens, it's fine. There are many other ways to do it. If you have Lord Vader, use Lord Vader. If you have just regular Darth Vader, there are ways you can cheese the feat, like use Darth Vader lead and then use Wat Tambor with weapons tech to give him more turns, so then he can use his Force Crush more often. And then Fracture, now with this, this team is a double diff team that I'm using, and that's why it's in both the Fracture and Ability Block, because Krennic has Ability Block on his leadership along with one of his special abilities. So that's why he's in the leader slot here, and not over Thrawn. So that's why that is the case. And then Darth Vader has ability block on his basic, and Wat Tambor, just a great plug and play character. Now, I have Maul Hate Field in here just because he has Fracture on a basic. If you don't have Maul, just throw a tank in here somewhere. But in this case, Maul is the tank because he does mark the healthiest underlying Force user ally, and if he's the only one, then he's gonna mark himself. So he's the tank here in this scenario. But if you don't have Maul Hate Fueled, just throw someone like Malik in here so that he can tank a bunch of hits. But here, Thrawn is the main driving force for the Fracture. Fracturing 40 times is a lot, but if you can get multiple procs of Fracture in the same battle, then it shouldn't be a problem. If you can get 2, 3, 4 in a same battle, then you should be fine, and it shouldn't take too long to get that done. Evasion ups, OG Bad Batch, in my opinion, is probably the best way to get evasion up, because there's just so many different ways you can gain evasion up. Hunter has an AoE that gives all Bad Batch allies evasion up. Echo's buff Dispel has evasion up. There's 2 different ways to gain evasion up with this team, and I've found that you get to use their ability so often, as long as you got a train moving and the enemies aren't doing much, you can get most of your evasion ups in 2 to 3 battles, I would say, and that's probably better than if you're to just do like CLS and then have Han do his shrug ability, you know. For the mini boss, we have win without using any bounty hunters in your squad, and win with 4 LOMs surviving. So what I have is no bounty hunters, placeholder team. Just don't use bounty hunters and you're fine. And then the Boba Fett, Sign of Django bounty hunter team that I've thrown in this entire time. Boss nodes, we have to win with Pirate King Hondo surviving, and win without using a Galactic Legend in your squad. So if you don't have Pirate King Hondo, you don't have Pirate King Hondo. And just don't use a GL. I just threw Satele in here because she's a big, powerful team, and that's what I'm going to use to just get that done and over with. So that's all the Conquest feats. That's what I'm going to be personally using for all of these feats. Now, this is not a step-by-step guide on how to do these feats. This is just a suggestion on what you guys would want to use for teams. These are what I'm going to be using. You can use whatever you want for these feats, but this is just my suggestions on what I have. So, if you like this video, Don't forget to like and subscribe so then you're not missing a thing. And yeah, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.